Happy Halloween 2016. I just finished reading Hillary Rodham Clinton's autobiography written in 2014 called Hard Choices. And we're going to take a look at some paragraphs in this book to see what kind of hard choices she made. For example, on page 461 of the paperback edition, Mrs. Clinton says she's talking about significant new challenges to our security and our values. And what she says is that this became painfully apparent in November 2010 when the online organization WikiLeaks and several media outlets around the world began publishing the first of more than 250,000 stolen State Department cables, many of which contain sensitive observations and intelligence from our diplomats in the field. And on the next page, 462, she says, in the immediate aftermath of the leaks, I condemn the illegal disclosure of classified information. And here's where it's important. She says it puts people's lives in danger, threatens our national security. So my question for Mrs. Clinton is, so she knew the importance of information and the protection of our national security. Well, was it a hard choice for her when she decided to put sensitive government information on a private email server that had less security than a Gmail account, which certainly threatened our national security? And another example, on page 473, in a chapter called Human Rights, Unfinished Business, Mrs. Clinton is stating the importance of women and children around the world and how their rights are being violated. So on page 473, she says, in talking about women and children, she says, in particular, I called attention to the women and girls around the world who were still systematically denied their rights and shut out from opportunities to participate in their societies. The full enfranchisement of the rights of women is unfinished business in this turbulent century. So my question for Mrs. Clinton is, was it a hard choice when the Clinton Foundation accepted millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, a country clearly that has not accepted the rights of women and girls? In the chapter called Benghazi Under Attack on page 327, you tell us that you decided it was important to be as forthcoming as possible, as quickly as possible, end quote. So my question to you, Mrs. Clinton, was it a hard choice to lie to families of the Americans that came back, when those 4 bodies came back? Was it a hard choice for you to tell them something totally opposite that you told the Prime Minister of Egypt, Mr. Kendall, quote, we know that the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Was it a hard choice to be as clear as possible as you indicated in your book? Furthermore, in the chapter on Benghazi, on page 328, you state when you became secretary of the department, the department outfitted your house with all the secure communications and other equipment necessary to work as easily from there as you could from the office. So when you first became Secretary of State in 2009, you already had them outfitted, but at the same time, you knew you put information, sensitive government information, on a private email server that had less security than a Gmail account, which jeopardized all of our national security. By the way, it's interesting to note that you did, when you became Secretary of State, you signed a classified information non-disclosure agreement. That's something that needs to be looked at a little more closely. So in summary, was it a hard choice when you talk about security risk and State Department information that you put sensitive government information on a private email server that had less security than a Gmail account? Was it a hard choice to jeopardize our national security, as you outlined in your book? Also, was it a hard choice to say you're concerned about women and girls around the world when the Clinton Foundation took in millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, a country that does not have a good record when it comes to women and girls? Was that a hard choice not to return that money? Was it a hard choice to lie to families of those murdered in Benghazi and Americans, stating that it was the result of a spontaneous uprising from a video totally contradicting what you told the Prime Minister of Egypt that it had nothing to do with the video. Mrs. Clinton, these were not hard choices. Moral clarity could have been easy for you. You made the choice to violate any alleged standards in which you claim to hold. You made the decision to set up a private email server. It's disingenuous to claim James Comey is wrong to update the American people 11 days before the election regarding something that you brought upon yourself. Mrs. Clinton, it's Halloween, and yes, you do scare me. Paid for by an individual exercising his First Amendment rights guaranteed under the United States Constitution, not paid for by a political party or candidate.